Well, it is 1 o'clock. We'll just get started. Just so you know, I am hosting it, but this is open. This is an open forum. I mean, this is like imagine we're all in just a giant circle. So let's just, if you have something to say, jump in. We all have valuable things to contribute, and I'll begin. Obviously, I'm hosting it, so I'll start the conversation. So tell you a little bit about myself for those of you who have not. In fact, if you could, let's click on the reactions button and give me a thumbs up if you, or any kind of reaction, if you've never been to one of these PLC meetings that we're having right now. Because I've done these, I do it annually. Did it for the past, I think, 2 or 3 years. Okay, cool. Excellent, excellent. So the way that, first of all, let me just start the way that it works. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I've been teaching now. This is going to be my 9th year. I started in 2015, so it's going to be my 10th year when I finish this upcoming school year. And so I've been a graphic designer since 1991. I still run a freelance design business. I've done everything a graphic designer can do. I've been an art director. I've done, interactive. I've done web. I even did a commercial, but it wasn't used. So I helped to write it and all that stuff. So, but anyway, so that's me, and I now teach. I love it. I absolutely love it. I'm here in Southern California, about 15 minutes from Disneyland's door. Not that I can afford to go in their door, but it's right there and I can look at them. And so I have some resources that I'm going to share with you guys. I actually have, I don't know if you use Padlet or any kind of bookmarking site. I use Padlet. I've done it since I began, and I've collected a ton of resources that I'm going to share with you. You will see actually a lot of the stuff is posted already in the featured tab inside our group. So you'll see a link to all of my Padlets and all of that stuff. We have curriculum that we put together. So not we, let me see, like that we've shared. We got a page that has curriculum and like curriculum maps and things like that. So I teach every level. I teach basic, it's called Digital Design and Illustration is my first year class. My second year class is Visual Communications. And then I have a third year class, which is Advanced or Honors Graphic Design. I wrote the curriculum for our honors class, which I'm proud to say is the first ever in ROP history. I don't teach, I'm not a district teacher. I work for North Orange County ROP, Regional Occupational Program. And so, anyway, let's see, I had some, oh yeah, and my honors and advanced capstone class, they are my junior designers for what I call, they're my work-based learning program, which they get to work directly with real clients that entire year. So I don't give them assignments at all. And so I basically just give them clients, and they come into the classroom. I can tell you all about that. Clients come in, the kids do all the consultation, they do the creative brief, the project, bring them back in weeks later and present the project. And that's kind of in a nutshell what I do. So now before we get into it, you guys have any questions at all? All right, Jenny, you posted, let me see here. Only completed 1 year of teaching graphic design, so I'm here to learn from everyone. Awesome. Okay. Excellent. Well, we could talk about, how to begin the year. What's the best way to start? And in fact, I recently I was interviewed on a podcast. I guess it is. I don't even know. And they asked me, how do you start the year? What would you tell beginning teachers, And even, I'll be honest with you, every single year I feel like a beginning teacher. I am every summer I'm recreating what I want to teach the coming year based on what I know, based on what I've learned. And so I'm always a new teacher. I kind of look at it that way. But for me, this year, my focus is going to be on starting out uh, with sketching being a priority. Well, okay, so let me just back up a step. Taking from my career and from my time and probably you guys have similar experiences, but when I was in college, the biggest takeaway that I learned was the creative process and getting that down like in a routine, in a step by step routine has helped me as a designer in my career. And so that is the focus where I start all of my classes, and even the advanced classes. We always start by a refresher of what is the creative process. But I broke it down. I have broken it down into a sign-off sheet with which I give to all of my students for every single project. And the sign-off sheet has, and I'm happy to share that with you. Basically, it's broken down. The first step is research, and then create a mood board of all the stuff you research, right? And do second step is sketching, and then refining your sketches and getting feedback and blah 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 blah. And all the way down to creating the work, refining the work, delivering the work. And they do that from in ninth grade all the way through to the capstone class. I have all of them practicing that from the very beginning. So I would say the creative process is where I begin. And those first two stages, doing that research and then doing the sketching from those things that we find, I think that's unbelievably important. And actually, it's kind of like, I think, the hardest part for a lot of these kids that come into my class. Um, I'm shocked. I don't know if you guys are as shocked as I am at how many students can't draw a simple square. Yeah, I mean, draw a square. I mean, that happens all the time, and I can't understand why that's happening. So anyway, that's what I focus on in the very beginning of my class. Welcome, guys, whoever just came in, whoever I just let in. And so yeah, that's how I start. Any questions at all? Does anybody have anything you want to throw in? How do you guys start?
Can I just jump in? Because what I like to do, I was reflecting on my year,
Yeah, yeah.
even in like starting in the spring, this last school year. I've taught I taught graphic design for 14 years at another site in my district, came to a new site, taught painting and drawing and other stuff. So I'm back to graphic design my third year. And like you, every year I feel new. I never nail anything down. I'm always trying to improve. And I realized what my weaknesses were this last year. Part of it was the beginning of the year stuff. And I like what you're saying about sketching and incorporating that. Um, Also had, I guess I reflected that I didn't really do as good of a job, and this ties in maybe to the beginning of the year too, but hitting the principles, elements of art and principles of design. And so I, I'm thinking of explicitly teaching those since we have so much movement in the first 3 weeks of our classes at my school anyway. Without the computer, I was thinking of just doing a lot with that. Um, and then I didn't really emphasize that in all my projects, although sometimes I would. I'll have them. I don't know how many people use Canvas, but I started having them reflect on how they met the goals of the assignment in the comments when they submitted. I didn't do that all the time. When I did it, I realized it was helpful, so I kind of want to implement that. And then the other area of weakness I noticed about myself was assessment. um, I did try to go to project, what do you call it, standard-based grading last school year. It was, it's hard to do the rubrics. Like, I don't want to do a different rubric for every project, so I got a little bogged down in that. But
And
those are
and
the
then you have to do the rubrics for, I mean, I have 120 students, right? So
oh,
I tried that. Rubrics are tough. I have a hard time with that.
so yeah, assessment elements and principles. Oh, and the other thing I didn't do so well, I know I reflected on. I'm gonna throw this out there for how it ties in. Because we're using computers, I realized a lot of in my beginning classes, I didn't have they only knew the person sitting next to them. I do want to get a lot more interaction among the students. And if any people have stuff on that today, that'd be great too.
I'm with you on that. Absolutely. That is a goal for my coming year, is to do more group work. And you know, my experience in college was not very group oriented. It was all, you know, just doing my own work. And we had some groups, very few, but the way that I've developed my classes since I've started teaching has just been coming from my experience in college. That's all I have to draw on, and my experience in the industry. So, and it's all been singular, solo. So that's my goal, is to get them to be working together. I might even teach a little bit of copywriting. I don't know, a little creative writing, and have somebody be a copywriter. Might even do a little art direction. I have no idea. I'm going to play it by ear this year. So, anybody else?
One of the things I like to start for digital is I used to teach digital art and advanced computer art, and now I teach middle school. But when I do the digital section, a good way to start it is to do an influence map. And it's kind of like a mood board, but you have a gray background, and it teaches them the interface of the Photoshop or Photopea, whichever one you're going to use, and just basic move tool and resize. And so it gets like a couple of things out of the way in layer management. And then they have to have the word influence map. So they use the text tool and their name and the year. And then they have to think about why and how they're influenced to make any kind of design decisions. We talk about what is design. We talk about what do you think was a good design? When did you get got on a bad design that like made you think of something that you really wanted to have and then you got it wasn't so great? They think about attraction and visual appeal. And then they try to make theirs visually appealing. And a lot of the times they're not looking at negative space when they're putting their pictures down. It's kind of all clumped together. So we reassess and reevaluate. And then I used to make them present. And then that was a good way to like make connections in the class, because they would say, oh, you like Naruto? I like Naruto. And then they would get like to figure out each other. And they used to have to make 2 comments in order to get an A on the critique. And then the other thing that I did notice that was good for like interactive stuff, because like it is very singular, and as an artist myself, I also had this like individual perception and perspective about how to go about making art. But making game design, either whether it's just like conceptual design and they don't actually make the physical board game or the digital game, but they come up with like the rules for a game. They strategize of 10 a list of 10 games that were great, a list of 10 games that were not so great. They work in teams to build kind of a concept for their own game, and then they can come up with character designs or the actual interface design, or however far they can take it. That has been a really good way to have them bridge, connections together. And because it's a kind of like risk and like, do you really want to win? Do you not want to win? It's like a whole cool thing. And then we look at like the history of Mario as like where did games come from in terms of digital stuff, and it is pretty fun.
It's awesome. That's great. I advise for the Gamers Club on campus, and we have a game art design program. Gaming is huge. There was a time a couple of years ago they were pushing gamifying your program a lot. So it's awesome. Thanks.
I wanna, if it's okay, I wanna just validate your focus on sketching this year. I started doing that a couple of years ago, mostly because our department's run by our drawing and painting teacher, and she's big on sketching, and she just kind of convinced me it's really important. And I didn't really buy in at first, but one of the things that I started realizing was that students tend to want to just hop on and think that they're going to come up with their design as they go. And I thought the sketching was really helpful to get them to it kind of forced them to have to think through what they were going to do before they jumped onto the computer. And in fact, I made it actually part of like a 10-point participation grade, and they turned in their sketch to show that they actually did it. Most of the time I would try to go around and check, but I didn't get to everybody. But it also, what I told the kids was, it also helps me to know what's in their head so that I can kind of help them get to their goals as they go. So I thought, and now I'm a big fan of sketching. I do it every year now. So I think it's a great idea.
That's awesome. That's great. Yeah, I sketch with everything. I'm a logo designer primarily, and so I've got a stack of books that I keep in my room. But that's awesome. Anybody else? How do you start the year? Or what would you like to know about starting your class? Are you guys, is there any new teachers in here? Are there any new teachers in here? I should say. No.
I'm not a new teacher, but I am starting a new course this year. So that's part of the reason I want to come. And I wanted to say thank you, David, because I've used your Padlet. I don't even remember how I found you when I'm this will be my third year teaching at the high school. And I taught 12 years of elementary art before that. So
Nice.
coming to the high school, my digital design class was something I needed a lot of help with. And I really found your resources very helpful. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
This year, we have taken out photography and added visual communication. It's only a 1 semester course. We're in Indiana. I'm sure, I mean, different courses or different states or even different districts can do that differently. But so that's kind of why I had some questions about what all you teach in visual communication. And I see that at the beginning, you said you have digital design as your first year and visual communication as your second year. So that's
Yeah.
mainly part of the reason that I'm here. And I always like to start my year with my students. I'm the only art teacher in our building, so I teach all of the fine arts. So I only have the one visual communication and digital design. That's only one of my 6 classes that I have. So
you got ceramics and drawing and art and
yeah,
paint,
well,
things like that.
I have intro and advanced 2D in the fall and intro and advanced 3D in the spring. I've got all 3 AP courses, and I have the visual communication and digital design.
Wow.
So that's what we
Awesome.
have in our building. And we have a fab lab. So another part of my reasoning for being here is we just got a large format printer, and I was hoping if anyone had any experience with like wall wraps and wall murals like that are printed, I would love to connect if anyone has any of that experience. We're getting going with some apparel design. We do have an interior design teacher, so we'll be working with her on some things as well. But if anyone teaches with any of that technology, I'd love to connect and maybe have a conversation with you as well. So sorry. Thank you.
No, that's good. That's awesome. So I actually, Dessa, I can fill you in a little bit on what I do for visual communications. Now, first of all, is there anybody else that teaches a visual communications class in here? Anybody else? No? Okay. So, all right. Well, so I personally am, personally, of course, personally, I have struggled with figuring out exactly the way to teach my visual communications class because I obviously don't want it to be the same as the first year digital design and illustration. But it's not the most I think, let me just put it this way. I think it should be an expert level, not a medium level, not like take it as a second year and then there's a third year, because it should go straight to the top, and you should be teaching things at a very advanced level. Because for me, at least, the very next step is they go work with clients. In the next class, they're working with clients. So I need them to know InDesign. I need them to understand certain things. And this is not difficult because they should, if you're covering the principles. And I sometimes I have a hard time doing it thoroughly, and I have to go over it several times, but they should know it and be able to do the more advanced work. And in visual communications, for me, it's been more about making the visuals speak for themselves as opposed to the typography and doing like advertising. It's been more illustrating and things like that, more poster art, poster work, and that kind of thing. I don't know if that's correct or not, to be honest with you, because it is visual communications, but it's a communications course. So it should have some, I think, a lot more of that, maybe different ways of communicating messages. different ways of making marks and creating different, like maybe it's mixed media, digital handmade, mix kind of a thing that's more like a Henri Toulouse-Lautrec sort of a thing. He made his own thing, not like he made it digitally, but you know what I mean, like poster art, promoting something. So I think that's the direction that I'm taking my visual communications class this year. It's a lot more of exploring different ways to communicate messages. I think that's the focus. And what that looks like, I'm still figuring it out.
I think part of the Indiana state standards anyway, the course description, the way that it's written for us is that students need to create portfolio quality print media. And then there's a variety of ways they can do that. And so that's part of what I've been focusing on. And I'm planning to use photography, create part of, because I had to take away photography in order to add visual communication because of the amount of periods that I have available. So some of the things that I was thinking of starting out with, just like, it's going to be, I guess maybe I could have flip-flopped digital design and visual communication semesters, but mine is going to be, I'll have some students that haven't even taken intro to two-dimensional design in that course. So I was planning to start with kind of a basic, what is graphic design? How do we build a brand? Then going into the elements and principles. And I appreciate like your creative process document that you shared. I'm excited about that.
Good, good, awesome. And Corbin, I see you posted something, and that's let me just read that real quick. So I've been teaching traditional art, but newer to the digital art world. In terms of teaching, I get overwhelmed on the flow of units and what projects are intriguing for the kids and what to cover. I have a graphic design background, but realize that there is also so much more to touch on. I felt like last year I was very scattered and jumped all over the place rather than having a set goal. And I'm trying to find more projects the kids are excited about. I can totally relate. Totally relate. For me, I have tried to build ways that the kids can actually take their work home. It's not all about creating digital work. It's about, creating the digital work and then seeing what it looks like in the real world. So we have, t-shirt projects. Later in the year, we'll do a package design. And I actually have a thing that can die cut the package out, and I teach them how to use a die line. It's a simple process. And then they build their art right on the die line, and we cut it out and put it together. Things that they can grab and take home and hold in their hands. I think it makes it so much more valuable. And not only that, they share it with the rest of the school, and it shares your program with the rest of the school. So that's I think what the kids really get excited about.
I'm thinking on exactly what you're saying, trying to structure my year around projects that can design on the computer, but also have it to take home. And one of the ones I saw someone mention, a large format printer, and I got myself a Roland BN2 last year. I was thinking of doing wrapping paper. I mean, since they're going to be learning about elements of art and stuff during the beginning part, get into the gift giving season. Patterns with Illustrator is a nice thing to do. Making patterns, but also, and if we can get back to how you're going to start the year with sketching, I guess I'm wondering how much time you're thinking of spending on that, and how are you going to structure it? Are you, I don't know, how are you starting? Where are you thinking? What do you want to get? Where's the place you want to get to with them?
Good question. So, first of all, I have the Roland BN20. By the way, I love that thing. It's a $4,000 printer and cutter and all that. It's so awesome. So sketching, in the very beginning of the year, the first month, I use bell work. I give them like almost every day, maybe 2 or 3 times a week. Just come up with a simple, we're going to do a sketch. Let's practice. Going to give you 10 minutes. Here's the criteria. Like I for instance, we've got a client. All right. They're a pet store and they sell only turtles. We need to come up with a logo, and I need you to not even worry about the words at all. I just need the mark. All right. And so, and we talk about, and that's a way for you to explain, get into explaining what is a logo, and things like that. So, and then the next one, it might be a sketch of just a typographic logo, just letters, and that's it. Let's do, or it might be a monogram or monogram or whatever. So, but sketching is not just sketching things. It's and people and things like that. It's also letters, because we have to think about letters in terms of their shapes a lot of the times when we're designing. So that's part of it. But that's how I do it. I also have one, when we get to the logo project, the very first thing that I do, and I started this last year and it was really successful. I loved it. There's a video it's all about I created a video. Let me say that. It's all about taking a sketch and turning it into a vector. So first they have to create that sketch. So I have them follow my instructions to design the sketch, take a picture, bring it into Illustrator, and that's their first step to actually turn that sketch into a vector. So that's really what the sketching like practicing is leading up to, if that
Hey,
makes
Dave,
sense.
if I could chime in,
Stephen, yeah,
how are you? Nice to see you.
nice to meet you.
Sorry I came in a little bit late, but to piggyback a little bit off of what Dave said, and I think the sketches, you notice he said something about doing it for a business. I think it's really important when you're giving projects or assignments or whatever, is to making that connection as to how it can be used. I think is a real critical component to, I don't want to say buy-in, but getting your students to understand why you're doing these exercises, why you're learning about elements of design, why you're learning about these things, is because you want to be able to make the connection as to why it's important. My take on it, I've been doing this for 20 years. My take on this is I'm always telling them, look, you're doing this so that you're developing the vocabulary of how to talk to clients, how to talk to people about what you're making and why you're making it. I'm always having them understand that I'm trying to make them a professional. You're going from an amateur to a professional. So here's the language on how you are talking about your work so that you can convey that to your potential client or the person who's looking at what you're making, and why you've chosen to do things a certain way, why you chose a particular font, why you chose a particular color, why you chose to do something a certain way or not. And they're learning this process. They're learning how to make this stuff, but you're also having them get comfortable and get behind what it is that they're doing, so they gain that confidence. So it builds upon just learning the skills and learning the understanding of it. I bring in, and I know Dave does this in some later classes, but I bring in right away clients. I bring in things from the outside world, whether it's another class that needs something done. I set them up with clients. I kind of throw them into the deep end a little bit with that. But I've seen how they build that confidence, and they start to get more comfortable about what they're doing, and they don't even realize that they're learning the skills and they're learning those important pieces. You're infusing that. They're not actually understanding that they're actually learning that, but they are, as they're making this stuff for someone else. I don't know if does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. See, yeah, bringing in on campus clients, right?
Absolutely.
Anybody that needs help, for sure. That's a good way to get them started right away with that, with helping people out and getting that mindset that they're working for somebody.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Excellent. Okay. So I don't know if you guys noticed, some of you did. I posted the link to my sign off sheet up in the chat there. Feel free to grab that. I am happy to go through, and if anybody else, well, let me just stop before I say anything. Anybody else want to have anything you want to share before we move on? Okay.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep. Hi, Jenny.
Okay, so hello. I did want to just throw something out there and get everyone's feedback. I am a one-year teacher in graphic design. I'm a little bit in panic mode half the time, just to be honest, but I'm enjoying it a lot. And I teach primarily 11th and 12th graders in a technical school, and then a few adults. So one thing I am required to do is have bell ringing. And I've heard you guys mention, I didn't do a good job of it last year. I want to do a better job this year. And so I've made a few notes as you guys have mentioned things. So any extra ideas on that, I'm welcome to take them. One thing I was thinking about, and I just kind of want your feedback. I was thinking about giving them interviewing techniques where they have to do a written response, like how would I respond to this question? And then once in 9 weeks, or yeah, probably once in 9 weeks, have a panel come in and actually conduct interviews. Kind of incorporate that in my bell ringer, maybe. It's just something I'm throwing around. And then if any of you guys have any feedback on portfolios, I want to jump into portfolios this year, which I didn't last year. I feel like that'd be just an important spot that they need them, and I just didn't know how to incorporate them yet.
Yeah.
And maybe a student night where we invite family members, or just to showcase their work. And I really want to incorporate that. And then I do have the large format printer, and I'm just going to throw this out there because that came up. One project that we did, it was Read Across America Week, and I took my students into the local elementary school, and we read a story with them, and then each of the students, the elementary children, sketched their favorite character, and my students brought that back to the classroom and then recreated the elementary character. Then we printed and cut them stickers out, and then returned their stickers of the students' drawn characters back to the classroom. And it was like first grade level. And so the students, my students enjoyed it. The first grade students enjoyed it. Plus, it helped them really make that real world application as well. So I know that was a lot of info. So primarily, any ideas on extra bell ringers and portfolio / student night, if you have any comments on that.
Well, since I've got my mic on already, I'll start, and then anybody else, if you feel like jumping in, please do. What I do for bell work, the idea of bell work is it's supposed to be related to what you're teaching. And so, it's like, it helps to reinforce the lessons that you're teaching. So, that's what I do. I try as much as possible to make them no longer than 10 minutes, so that it's just a quick kind of a thing that they can practice and then get back into their work. We only have 50 minutes in my classes, so 10 minutes for a bell project is a lot out of what they, out of their time in my class. So I don't do it every single day, but as much as I can.
Can you give an example of a bell ringer?
So I was talking about earlier the sketching, where I would say you got 10 minutes. Let's do a real quick, here's your client. Like the earlier example was, it's a pet store. They only sell turtles, or whatever your favorite pet is. And now let's come up with a mark for that. And like I said, it's only 10 minutes. So I have them come up with 5 real quick thumbnail sketches, really small, and then refine one real fast if they can. So now that's one. Another one might be actual, writing. Here's another one that I do. So I personally like to capture, I keep saying personally, I mean, obviously it's personally. when I'm driving down the road on my way to work, wherever I am, if I see a logo on a truck or somewhere, I will take a picture of it, whether it's good or bad, and use it. A lot of the stuff that I see is just crapola. It's really kind of fun to bring in. Like I found one yesterday that I captured. Really, really ugly. And so I post that into, we have Google Classroom. If you have Canvas, you can do the same thing, but just post it in there as a question, have them critique it, give them some prompts, give them like 2 or 3 questions to answer about this logo. Is it, appropriate? Does it follow any of the principles of design? What do you, how does it make you feel? Do you understand it? How's the color? Stuff like that. So that's a good bell work assignment anytime, to have them practice critiquing something. An advertisement, their neighbor's hairstyle. I don't know, whatever. So that's bell work. Now, like I said, you guys feel free to jump in. I'm just gonna throw out what I do for portfolios. I start at the very beginning. Every single thing that they do, I have them put up onto a Weebly website. It's a free website. Just set up a really easy weebly.com. It comes out looking better than Wix or any of those others. Certainly not Google Sites. If anybody's using Google Sites, I highly recommend changing. It's a terrible, terrible platform. So anyway, so that's what I do. They start right in the 9th grade, start with a portfolio right away with the very first assignment, and just start building it up over the entire time that they're with me. It's an academy program, so they're with me for, if they sign on to the academy, for like 3-4 years. So it's a good way to create a portfolio. Anybody else? Bell work, portfolio?
I can speak a little on some of the topics. I forget who initiated the conversation, but my classes are 90 minutes long. So it's a lot of time.
That's nice.
It is nice, but it's a double-edged sword, because sometimes if you get a specific class, you're like, is it time to go yet? But for bell work, I ebb and flow over it. Last year or the year before, I think most of the bell work was just daily drawing or drawing of the day, whatever I called it. It was really just 10 minutes of sketching, because my classes are called digital art, and they're leveled. So it's level 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I teach all 4 levels. So level 1 is entry, intermediate, intermediate, advanced, and then advanced. And then I teach, they all can take it at any level, 9 through 12, but if you took it 9th grade, the sequence is built so you could be in a level up until your senior year. And many years ago, my district used to have a prereq of a studio art, or we called it Art 1 at the time, and they no longer have that. So they don't have a lot of exposure to drawing. So I would just, like Inktober was one we did in October. And then sometimes I've had the kids come up with their own prompts, but usually anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. They have a sketchbook. They divide the page into, usually I've had them divided into 5 sections, because I see them 5 times over a 2-week period, because it's every other day. So I could look at one page, and that would be 2 weeks worth of warm-ups. So really for me, I just do drawing ones. I like the idea of doing the other ones. It's just a little bit more involved, and it's more on you. So I kind of liked the drawing of the day, because it was a transition for their brain. And for me, they could come in, get settled, relax, kind of get in a vibe. So we would have like no talking, I'd put on music, and then they would just draw. So it was kind of to also serve as a way to transition their brain from hallway clutter to, okay, now we're going to do this. And we're going to be like an artist brain, as opposed to the mathematician or the writer, wherever they were coming from before. I don't know if I'm going to continue that. I think some kids liked it. I think most kids liked it. Some kids didn't, but I guess that's what every project, right? You get some kids that love it and other kids that are like, it wasn't my best. So I have to remind myself, you're the professional, what's better for them. So sometimes I'm like, you know what, I know you might not like it, but you don't like broccoli either, and it's good for you. So sometimes we have to do things that, you know, they don't like. And then the other thing I wanted to speak to was I forgot who was saying it, so I apologize if I don't remember your name, but about the having parents and do the artwork. This was many, many years ago, and I'm working with a new team, so I'm still figuring out how to integrate it. But many, many years ago, my former team and we did like a art family night. We had stations set up. So like in the photo room, we had like a backdrop and a softbox, and people could come take their portraits. Then in the studio room, we had little still lifes on the table, and we had little mini easels and canvases that I think we wrote a PTSA grant for. And then we had like snacks, and then the art students and their parents could come and just make art together. So they came in, they could go through different stations. I think we had one, or I don't remember exactly what we had because it was a very long time ago. But that might be something. There was art educator I studied in grad school, Victor D'Amico, and he had written a book about art for everyone, or art for the family, I believe it was called. And he talked about that, integrating and having kids make art with their families. So that might be an idea if you want to integrate your families more.
It's awesome. We used to do that a lot. When I was growing up, we did like clay projects as a family. We used to sit around and just do all, but that died off when I I became a teenager. I don't know. So excellent. Thank you for that. Anybody else have any questions or anything else you'd like to talk about? I can move on to show you some of the other resources that I've got available for those of you that are not familiar with that. Okay. All right. Let me dive into some of the stuff. So for those of you that are looking for guidance, I guess, on how to run your year, I'm not saying this is the ideal way. This is one way. And what I do here is I've set this up, and this was last year. And I honestly, to be honest, be quite honest with you, I didn't go all the way through the year. I did go pretty far, but you can see I left a bunch of stuff here. Spring break, yay. But you can see how I do this. I kind of set it up where I put the resources right into this Padlet, and I can go in and use it, show the videos, and I tell myself, this is just for me. The kids do not see this page, but on Wednesday we would go through. This is the first day of class, right? And then Thursday and Friday. So I did this last year. I'm not going to do it again this year. To be quite honest with you, it's a lot to go through. It absolutely helped to straighten my head out about what I wanted to do, and what I wanted when I wanted to do it. So I highly recommend using this, the timeline setup that they've got here in Padlet, if you want to try to organize yourself. And then let's see, this is, in fact, here, let me do this. I'm going to plug this into the chat. Oh, sorry, I sent that directly to you, Tammy. My bad. Send that to everybody. Bam, there you go. And then I've got another page right here. And this is something that we started a year ago. I asked for collaboration, and we had a couple of people jump in, not a lot, but we did have some people that threw in their curriculum and some ideas for, how to run your class. I guess it's curriculum stuff. So I'm going to post that here as well for you if you want to take a look at that. Now, once again, in my Padlet, these are all the Padlets that I have. And you can see there are tons of them, and I highly recommend, like, typography. Just go in there. I've got typographic basics, typography basics, type advice, type setting, and so and you can go all the way down here, type fun, right? This is obviously that SNL. Oh no, don't tell me it's not available. You got to be kidding me. The papyrus clip. Wait a minute. No. Oh, that's terrible. Oh, well.
Is that the SL one?
That's the SNL one. Yeah. Oh, well, that's terrible. I can't believe they took that offline. So anyway, there's one about Trajan here. So I highly recommend find funny clips. That'll help keep them connected. I think. So trends, documentaries. Anyway, this is just typography. So these are all listed in the featured tab in our group. So you feel free to go ahead and grab that. And I think that's pretty much it. Yeah.
One, could I interject with a question or something? One, I think somebody mentioned community, and one of the things I've struggled over the years is building that community with students, because so my classroom is set up as it's computers, so it's just like a row of computers and then a row of computers, so it doesn't really lend itself, like you have the person next to you, but then the person behind you is probably at least, a few, like 2 feet away. And so where my colleagues in studio or photo have tables so the kids can collaborate, you could put a piece of artwork, which I want to do more with art specific kind of things in my class. So it's harder to get them to talk to one another or to build that, because they basically can't see each other, right? So if I'm here and then in front of me is another computer, like there's a computer between us, so I can't see the person.
Yeah.
Where, my colleagues have the tables, so it's easier to do things. And so one of the things I would like to do is feel like the kids don't really know each other. They maybe know the one, and sometimes they don't even know the person next to them because they don't talk. They won't talk to each other. Where it's funny because if you go in the other classes, they don't be quiet. So
Yeah. I have that same problem. Anybody else? How do you guys deal with that?
What,
Go on.
sorry, go ahead.
I was just, I have had them, have the person next to them give feedback and stuff like that, but I'm thinking, I want to do something in the whole row. So I have rows of 6. And so maybe like each row is its own group. And so maybe when we're brainstorming or something, they can all brainstorm together, stuff like, and then go do their individual work. That's something that I've been thinking about.
Dessa, did you want to jump in? Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, go for it. No, go for it. Go for it.
I'm making a Google Doc of all of the links and things that everybody's been sharing. I don't know if anybody else is doing that, but I'll happily share it at the end. So I was adding what Corbin just said about Blue-Kit. I'd never heard of that. One of the things I do in my class is I just try and do some collaborative projects. We're a really small school though, so I might have some advantages in that if you're in a larger district, and I have pretty small class sizes. I think I've had like 16 to 20. So I think if you take some time at the beginning of your year and maybe plan icebreakers, which everybody loves to loathe, right? Maybe you can get some interaction with your students that way. Sometimes I'll partner them up with someone else in the classroom, and we'll do like a design competition, and then vote for winners, like as a class, or do it as a project-based learning opportunity, where the students work in pairs to come up with a design, and then it is a design that we're doing for some other entity like Stephen recommended. And then they kind of get that ownership and pride in their work because someone else has selected their piece. So those are a couple things that I've been doing.
I'll chime in a little bit.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've done consistently, which has always helped, is actually having critiques where you spend even a period. I mean, I'm fortunate. I have them for half a day, so I get them for 2.5 hours. I have 2 sessions. I got a first-year program and a second-year program, so I have the luxury of being able to spend a lot of time where we can critique their work, and they get more comfortable talking about their stuff, but with each other as well, and forcing them to give constructive feedback about what they've put up on the board, I think is really a critical component that adds where they do interact better throughout the year, where they get anxious, or they get excited about actually doing critiques, where they crave it, they want it. And I've set it up where you're always going to get students who are uncomfortable with that from the get-go, and there's ways you do it. And one of the things that I do is I work with an English teacher, where we model it and we talk about how we critique something, and then doing like what you said, Dave, at the beginning, we call it a do now, but the beginning, the beginning thing where they actually have to critique a logo that you found, so that's a big thing, and getting them to talk about that with each other, I think is a good way to get that community set up, like you had thought about. So
I'd like to piggyback that a little bit with what I do for peer critique. I often like to do it with them in process. So making sure that there's given time for them to take the feedback and apply it and then move forward with it. But what I do is I use Seesaw. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of it, but it's sort of like a closed Instagram for the kids. So they post a screenshot or JPEG or PNG of their work, and then they have to go and comment on, so many peers. And then, so in the first year classes, that's kind of like the extent of it. But with the advanced class, after they do that written critique, then we will put them up and sort of talk about it. So they have some ammo going into the conversation where they're not just put on the spot or worried about what they're going to say. They sort of have some stuff in their bag ready to go. And it's really improved the community, and they often do it on their own now, like spontaneously when they need help or they're stuck. So I found that that's been extremely helpful. And you'd be surprised, like some of the kids that won't say anything, write like paragraphs and paragraphs about each other's artwork. It's wild.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I would say that's very good, because it is doing it throughout the process. It isn't just at the final end. It's throughout the whole process, so that you can have those revisions, and it's more than just saying, "Oh, I like it." It's like, no, that's not enough. You can't just say you like it. You got to articulate things about it.
Right. And it's easy for us as educators to fall into the routine of not letting that happen. Like, let's just do the project, move on to the next one. I've done that, and I actually started last year catching myself and giving them an opportunity to actually talk to each other about their work and practice that, and getting the feedback and the critiques. So I'm building that more into my curriculum. For sure.
I just want to throw this out there real quick. They were talking about creating that community within the classroom. When I first walked into my classroom, it was all in rows. And I have about 18 students, and I have them for a 3-hour block. So I do have the luxury of them getting to be together for a longer period of time. But I was like, okay, I didn't feel like it would build that community well. So I just completely put everything in pods, like moved my desk into groups of like 4 or 5, depending on how the room was set up. I just had to work with what I had. But when I created those pods, it created little small groups individually. So then when I need to say, hey, this group, you're assigned to this, this group back here, you're assigned to this. And I could break up into groups easily where they can collaborate together. Or the other thing I would do would be like, if a student was struggling with brushes, instead of me immediately helping them, I would say, oh my gosh, so-and-so is amazing on a brush. So-and-so, can you come over here and help them? And then that made that other student be like, oh, being recognized here. And then, so big, and I would try to tell them all, you all have different gifts and talents. Hers might be brushes, yours might be Photoshop, this one's this one. So I would try to start building that community slowly with them helping each other. But putting the desk in pods helped drastically.
I just wanted to mention about Book It too. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but it is kind of like Kahoot, but it's a challenge. It puts the kids head to head with each other, and I teach online now, so it's pretty crucial for me to have things that can connect us on an online platform. But even when I was in a public school, like, it's so funny because my class would have 40 kids, and so it'd be me and 40 kids, and like there's different games. Like there's a gold one where you can like steal gold. There's like a crypto, like a hacking one where they like hack each other's passwords. But when you get that question right, you like get to like steal money from someone. And so I always play with them, and I'm like, you guys can't let me win. And so I feel like it almost kind of creates a bond too with them of just like me. And of course I always let them win, like, but it's just funny because they're always like, who's this person, they stole from me, and then I'm like, they're over there, or like, and it just kind of helps them like kind of like see each other and like understand. So what I do with Book It is whatever unit we're learning about, I like, you can like upload questions from Quizlet, so that makes it a little bit easier. But as we add more units, I make the game harder. So we play Book It pretty often, but it's always like really reviewing what they know, and like and it's just fun because we all interact with each other, and it gets pretty crazy sometimes.
That's awesome. I'll integrate Book It this year. That's great. Okay. Thank you for that. Anybody else?
Question for Corbin. I'm wondering if, I know we have to keep kids, anonymous and all that. Is there any way you could share a snippet of how you use it? I don't know how you would do that. Just asking.
Yeah, so I have created a set of like what do you mean? Like how do I facilitate it kind of?
Well, yeah, so it could see it in action, how it's being used.
Oh, I mean, I don't know. I don't have
What if
any
we-
like
What if
videos,
we
but
play it?
we could. There's all these pre-made sets. So I created my own so I could integrate the questions that are pertaining to my classroom. But there's also goofy ones. So like you could start off the year with like what's this movie? What's the, because I think they have pre-made sets kind of similar to Kahoot. So it's similar to Kahoot, but they're just like it. I don't know. There's different games. It's hard to explain, but it's been like honestly such a lifesaver because I feel like the kids got really like over Kahoot, and Book It is fun because there's so many different games, so it always kind of keeps it going. But yeah, I don't know if I have a video, but yeah.
Yeah,
I think
Kahoot
I
is
can help a little
really-
bit with the explanation of it.
Go for it.
If you have your own set that you've made, or you use one that is already pre-made, there's a join code. So the students, we're a Google school, so my students just sign in with they just go to, actually, I don't even think they have to sign in. They just go to Book It, and then it's like join a game, and they have to have the code that you have as you're launching the game. So no random people can kind of join your game. It's only the people right then and there that have that specific random code. And then what I do, the kids honestly love it. I'm right there with you, Corbin. They are so competitive about it. So what I've started doing, I use it a lot for reviews. To just kind of, for me to gauge what they're grasping and what they're not grasping. I don't like count it for anything, but I will give the podium winners, because it shows at the end, like first, second, third place. I'll give them extra credit points that they can like use on anything, because if you've gotten to the podium, like you have to know your stuff. So I hope that sort of helped explain a little bit how it works, but I'm pretty sure they have videos on their site.
Awesome. Yeah, I was gonna say Kahoot is really elementary. It's like for literally, it feels like it's for like fourth graders, fifth graders. So I feel weird having my high schoolers play Kahoot. It feels very strange to me. So I'm glad there's an alternative. Yay! All right. Have a wonderful afternoon. It's so great to see you guys and to meet some of you and to see the others again. We will see you next time. If you want to set up another PLC before you begin, just let me know. I'm happy to do it.
As always, thanks, Dave. Your stuff is awesome. Thank you
All right,
for
Steve.
keeping this site and keeping us up to date. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve. No problem. No problem.